In the studio, Rosendo Hinojosa. We lovingly refer to him as Rosie. Rosie Hinojosa is the chief for the Border Patrol office here, the Rio Grande Valley sector. Thanks for stopping by. How you been?
Tell you, thanks for the invite. And I want to apologize for not being available Saturday morning, but actually the deputy chief and I went to a golf tournament in Memorial.
Oh,
for
so golf is.
agents.
Oh, I see. So consistent with the Obama administration, golf is more important than addressing important.
Well,
national
actually,
matters.
this was an important event. We lost 4 agents from out of the Harlingen
All right,
station.
now you slammed me.
about
Okay.
15 years ago and 8 years ago. So we were there in their memory and helping out raise
Then
some money
it.
for a scholarship.
Then for it. And thanks for stopping by today.
You bet.
Okay, let's talk about a recent interview. The local Border Patrol union came on the air, and I want to give you a chance to address, if by point, some of the issues that were brought up. There was a mention of a segment of the border here in our area that almost went unpatrolled as a result of a huge influx of immigrants coming in. Illegal immigrants have to be processed at the local McAllen border station. Boats called back, people called back from the field. Let's process. We got to clean up house. We got to clean up the warehouse. Is the border being unpatrolled at times as a result of the influx on weekends?
Absolutely not. Obviously, we were just talking off air. The weekends happen to be our busiest time of the week. We need to make sure that we have the appropriate amount of manpower assigned on the weekends, and we focus. We shifted resources from other locations in the valley into the McAllen Station area. McAllen Station is our busiest station. And we've got several specialty units. I think we provided you a release that talked about just the agents that are on the shift aren't the only ones that are assigned to that particular area. So there's a little misunderstanding. I've had several conversations with the union about this. We're not going to leave that border unprotected. That's our job. But at the same time, and just about equally as important, if not more important, is the welfare and care of the individuals that we do catch. And since we're catching a lot of OTMs other than Mexicans, matter of fact, that station is catching more OTMs than they're catching Mexican nationals entering illegally into the United States, then they take a longer time to process. So it's about prioritizing your manpower to address whatever the issue is. And in this case, when you've got 300 people, 200, 300 people in custody, we've got to care for them and then get them and transfer them.
Well, Chief, let me ask you,
Yeah.
how do you balance that? How do you balance the security of the border with documenting the immigrants you detain with, maybe a lack of manpower despite the boost in boots on the ground that you have had, plus considering the sequestration cuts that may be coming?
Well, the sequestration cuts, obviously, that's been an issue that's been a concern for all of us. And we just got notified yesterday, as well as the rest of the American public, that that's going to be postponed until we figure out at the CBP headquarters level how we're going to prioritize the budget. So that's good news for the men and women,
Right.
Wearing all uniforms for CBP, but specifically for the Border Patrol agents. So we've got detention requirements that say you can only detain somebody for so long before you put them in a satisfactory detention. Our stations are not detention centers. Our stations are designed to temporarily hold people while we process or prosecute them, and then get them into a staging
ICE
facility.
facility.
Correct, ICE facility. So we've been working very closely with ICE ERO, which is Enforcement Removal Operations, to make sure that we're transferring them as soon as we're done with them, transferring them out. But this is last year we had about 53,000 out of the 98,000 arrests that we made. 53,000 were other than Mexicans, mainly from Central America. This year we're going to exceed that number.
So you're being slammed on weekends. It's been a pattern that you've been seeing now for several weeks, several months.
Correct.
You've been seeing an influx, and for whatever reason, there's a huge number of illegal immigrants now trying to cross the border, and you guys are, what is the high water mark? 800, 700 people at the processing center that holds 270 people? What is the high water mark?
No, it's not that high, but we have had, obviously we at points we've had numbers that exceed our capacity. There's no danger associated with us.
But you got to process these folks in.
But we got to
quickly.
process them, right?
Yeah.
We got to process them, and then we've got to supply additional agents to safeguard those individuals, right? So it's the sooner we can process them and get them out of our custody, the better off we are as a workforce, and then we can get our people back to the line.
Something else that the union representative mentioned to me on the extended interview which ran 15 minutes on Saturday. I specifically asked him, are there illegal immigrants that are being released into the community as a result of you guys being overwhelmed, that you're having to process people out quickly, maybe priority given to parents, children, things like that? Are illegal immigrants being released into the community as a result of you guys being overwhelmed by so many folks coming in?
Not by the United States Border Patrol. Now,
Right.
whether they get released later on by ICE ERO, a lot of times.
So that's a question for Nina Pruneda over at ICE then.
Correct.
All right. Can you confirm? Have you heard if those illegal immigrants are being
Well,
released?
sometimes they've got a certain amount of funding also, right? And I believe that's 34,000. I read that in public records, 34,000 beds that they have.
Yeah.
So if the numbers exceed their capacity, then they got to make decisions also. So I would recommend that you talk to Nina to see what those numbers are.
Very well then.
What's the situation with the sequestration cuts right now? Then you've got a little bit of delay working for you right now.
Yes. Well,
How long can you keep this going?
Well, that'll be determined at headquarters, Washington D.C. Now, sequestration is something that happened a long time ago, right? It was an agreement between Congress and the White House over a year ago. Now, March 1st is when it was actually signed into law. So we've been dealing and preparing for sequestration. Luckily now we don't have to actually implement this weekend like we were anticipating. But we've got to plan and be ready to make sure that we deal with the job at hand. At the same time, we welcome the good news for our employees.
For what, I guess about 2 weeks right now, is you can hold off the furloughs?
They haven't given us a timeline, but hopefully it's a lot longer than that.
Rosendo Hinojosa is the local Border Patrol chief for the Rio Grande Valley sector. I've been trying really hard to understand, Chief, how the budget works for you. And I'm beginning to think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way the budget is set up for you guys, just the regular budget, covers only so much of your expenses. It is the extra gravy that you receive as far as the additional increases from year to year that helps to pay the overtime, which is something that you have to apply in the field in order to keep the agents out there. And because that increase is not going to be as big next year, it's still going to increase, but not as big as was scheduled to be, then you can't be applying that overtime. Hence, you have to restructure the way that you provide the man hours for your
Yeah, I think what you're asking is obviously Border Patrol gets a budget, DHS gets a budget. CBP determines what the budgets are going to be for all the officers under their watch, one of which is Office of Border Patrol. At that point, then the sectors get their budget, to operate on. I think what you're talking about is discretionary spending. Yeah. The majority of our budget goes to payroll, salaries, and benefits. So then we've got a certain amount that we use for operating expenses, whether it's fuel, meals for the people in custody, travel, everything else that encompasses, our roles and responsibilities. So as the budget numbers, and we've been pretty steady for the last couple of years, but we just have to wait to see what the future budgets hold.
I'd love to, flesh this out at greater length if you're available on a Saturday morning in the future when you're available. There's so much to talk about here when it comes to border security, and we would like to get it from the horse's mouth. Not calling you a horse, but you know what I'm talking about. Right?
Let me just say before we go off air that I appreciate the men and women that wear this uniform and all uniforms. But our people are doing their job. They're doing a tremendous job, and I'm really proud of them. And I'm looking for a good solution at the end of this process, and hopefully we can continue doing the job that the American people expect us to do.
Thanks for stopping by, Chief. Appreciate you. That's Rosendo Hinojosa, Border Patrol Chief for the McAllen sector, our guest on 710 KURV.